Hi everyone, I am Stephen Tippett and welcome back to episode 2 or series 2 depending on how you're looking at it. We are going to be looking at this image provided by Liam Taylor. He has graciously said that we can edit this for educational purposes to show you how an outsourcer would edit this photo. That was all in one breath. Let's just jump right into it. So we have our dark, medium, and light. I did go ahead and go in and enhance this with the noise reduction just because there was quite a bit of noise in these little areas that I didn't want. In the brighter ones there wasn't very much, so just going back to showing the darker one, this is what we will be using for a window pull. We are going to be doing completely different things on this one than we did in the last one. So just showing, bring the highlights down and the shadows up for this, and for this medium one, all I'm going to be doing is raising the brightness, turning the highlights down, and for this, the brightest one, highlights all the way down, whites all the way down. Now, don't follow exactly what I do, just take this as a reference. I'm going to be using the darkest one for the windows, highlight areas, butcher block, these little areas over here. This one I'm just going to be kind of blending in with this one, and so let's take all of these into Photoshop just by clicking open after selecting all. So for this one we are going to be just taking this one and combining the two. So I'm going to put the brighter one in with that, so I'm going to select all on this medium one, copy, and then paste. The brighter one is on bottom, so let's turn this off, select the bottom layer, go into the channels, hold control, click on the RGB, press layers again, go into the selection, go to feather, or you can press shift F6, the same thing. I'm going to turn this up by 50 to 100, so 50 should be good right now. And now with that feathered out, you can click and select this, click this little button down here, and that kind of shifts everything. Just so you can see what we've done there, we've taken the bright one and we've just turned the highlights down. I am destructive, so I'm going to flatten that layer. Now that we have that, we're going to bring the other one in, even though it's going to be a completely different thing. This is hand blending, so I'm going to copy that, bring it over into here, press Ctrl V, and then I'm going to duplicate that. We're going to need a window pull layer later. So I'm going to turn both of these off. Go to your channel, hold control, press on that, go back to the shift F6, and then I'm going to be doing 100 this time on the feather, bringing this back in and just control clicking that, and then I'm going to do a window pull now that we have a more selective little thing that we have going on here. So if I invert that, it kind of looks weird. You see the shift and differences, but this is where we are wanting the windows to be, so I'm going to be editing that part out. So if I turn this back on, it brings back the other one. Going into the window pull section. Now this is going to take a while, but you would literally go in here and select out all of the window parts. So even in the complex scenes where you have a lot of foliage or plants or anything like that, you can get away with it a little bit by using other tools like Topaz Remask or things to select windows out a little better. But for just straight lines, this is the fastest way I've found to do this, to give you the nice crisp lines that are needed. So we will come back and all of this will be selected. And welcome back. We have everything selected here. I am going to increase the selection by feathering it by 1. Turn this back on and then click this so you can have that mask. And then that's basically how you're doing the window mask. So if you want to control click that and just invert that, then you can actually copy this and bring that back up and then turn this down a little bit and have a real nice view just by bringing things back and doing some layer mask. Now, if you don't want this to be as strong, you can come in here and just bring this back down through opacity, which, I mean, it's a pretty good window already. So that's how you would do the window view. Now let's go back in and color correct and do everything the way that I showed you in the last video. I am destructive, so go in there. Now you can go in here and do all the HSL sliding and make all of this white, but let me show you just another way you can do that. So I'm going to Control J to make another layer there. Filter, go back into Adobe Camera Raw, then go into your HSL slider in here and just click this little tool. Make sure you're on this little selection. This is going to make all of the oranges go away and everything else, but we will handle that here in a second. We can make the whites whiter, come back in here, and then so now you have all of these little areas that were orange, and now we've color corrected them to white. But let's bring back the other way. So I'm going to click on this background layer, turn that off, come up here into selection, color range, and I am just going to select everything I can and then turn the fuzziness down to only select the parts that need to bring back the color. So if you get into any of those little areas that are white, you just don't go back in there. You can do localized color layer as well to kind of decrease that. So if we click on that, then all of the orange spots are selected, and if we just duplicate that again and raise that up to the top, then we have a white balanced. Then we have eliminated the color cast on everything and brought back the other things. Now there is a little bit of a difficulty with some of the dark spots just causing an issue. So what I would do is I would actually duplicate this. Now whenever I do all these things, it happens so fast. Whenever I'm explaining it, it takes a little bit. So I'm going to make this a mask, and then I'm just going to bring back some of the spots that need to look a little better, just like this table where, you know, we've lost some of the detail, which most of the time this looks okay right out the bat, but sometimes you need to bring back some of the little details in areas, or else the shadows and highlights look funny and unnatural. So I'm just going to hand paint those and make it look the best I can. If we wanted to, we could come back in here and just close this out and do a color layer. So I'm just going to change this to color, and then I'm going to select the brush tool, turn the opacity, or turn the hardness up and vary the size. Now the things that I may want to change are just the blacks. So if we wanted to, we could just select a black color and then color that in. This is at 100%, so you can see the difference and the color change, taking things to black if you wanted, which I selected black. This could just be white as well. And then same thing, if you wanted to get rid of it in here, you could just select these little areas, but most of them have already been fixed. So if we go into this little guy and you wanted to select this out, you could do that. And if you wanted to change this to just pure black and white, you could do that without getting into the other areas. And then select this part. I'm actually going to leave the orange tones on this because that's a reflection that is not color cast. If you remove that, then it makes it look funny, which it's all just personal touches, isn't it? Now, let's say you had some discoloration in here and you wanted to fix that to just make it look more uniform. You could do that with the color slider as well. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If you turn the flow down to a low level and just bring it back, and you can kind of paint back color where you want it. That works really nice. Make sure you don't get the overspill because it'll color everything. Alright, so the last step would be to probably straighten and align everything. So I would go back into Camera Raw. Right now I'm on the wrong layer, so I'm just going to flatten this. Come into my little guy right here. Now everything is nice and straight. If you wanted to make sure everything was nice and straight, you could do this by hand. There is a little bit of a distortion happening as well on some of the photos, or with the lens correction. You could fix that. That's just right down here in the optics section. So if you wanted to fix the distortion, you could fix the distortion. Oh, I made that full frame. And then you can crop it afterwards. Right now I'm going to go back into just the basic, and I'm going to raise the shadows up a little bit, turn the highlights down, raise this up, and then we're going to crop. All right. Final thing, I like to adjust just the blacks and the whites just to make sure they're fully good. Let's actually bring in his final product and take a look and see what they did versus what we did. Alright, so this is an actual outsourced image that he got back, and then this is my version of the outsourced image that I edited similar to them. So there's a little bit of difference in the distortion correction. They left the ladder darker, and they probably went in and hand painted in some of these things and left this a little different. Not much different though. So these are the telltale signs that you can come back in and look and kind of see what your editors have done as well. So one thing I messed up over here, and you could see that in the way that this is white and this is black, and they actually got it. They were perfect with it. Oh, well, they were almost perfect with it. They have a little bits of white here and white there. What it looks like they've done, now that I'm looking at it, so with mine, I actually went in and cut out every single window and every single little bit. With them, they just made this rail pretty much black, and it looks like they came in and just selected this part as a whole. Maybe? I'm not sure. But you can always tell little selection spots. So right here, you can tell they just went over this whole selection, and so that's an inconsistency there. Whereas mine, it's all consistent and throughout. Just little bits here and there. And of course, I can see mistakes that I made that I should have fixed, that I didn't, or I didn't show you. So this is fun. They made this really dark for some reason. I don't know why they would have done that, but I mean it works, but didn't need to be any darker for the cutout. This is already perfect brightness and perfectly see-through. All right, so which one do you like more, theirs or mine? I like the colors in mine, but my colors may be more vibrant. So yeah, that's how you hand blend, cut out windows, and do an image the way that I just showed you. If you have any questions, comments, leave them down below. I'm also in all the groups that you are all coming from. Once again, thank you to Liam Taylor for providing these photos. In part 3, I may show a flash layer if somebody wants to see that.